Hello. Oh, missed a chance, didn't I? I could have done. Hi. Yeah, all right. Stop looking at me like that. Hang on. Make a note. Don't be smarmy. What else is there? Oh, yeah. Don't say what's up. Okay. Hello. I'm William Gallagher. Really nice to see you here. This is 58 Keys, which, as ever, is for writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. And this is a live version, and I think it's a live version. The excuse is WWDC. That's just happened. Apple's big worldwide developers conference, announcing all sorts of new things that we can't have yet. Sort of can't have yet. Yeah, might come around to that point in a bit. But also, thing is, we are writers, but we are very different writers. I think so. I mean, I don't write anything like you. You don't write anything like me. But I bet that we both talk about writing quite a bit. So this is a chance, 58 keys to do. Well, I want to start with what's going on in WWDC that's going to affect us. What things are coming to the new versions of the operating system for the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac. I don't really know much about the Apple Vision Pro, but if you do, you can tell me. And Jellyvet one was Apple TV. Nothing's going on with Apple TV, not the little box. Anyway, great dramas on Apple TV Plus. Apple Watch, Apple Pencil. We could do something on the Apple Pencil. Yeah, all right. That involves handwriting, doesn't it? And things like that. Let's not go down that route. Something else for this hour, something you could help me with is this 58 keys. It's for writers who use all this gear, but we do use this gear for other things. I mean, I'm never going to be able to do a full, I think I call a 3 biscuit guide into Sudoku, or I cannot think of a game. President Evil, something like that. My mind might have gone to politics there. I'm never going to be able to do something like that. But I know alongside writing apps, there are these other things that we can talk about and that maybe I can find out for you. Resident Evil, Mark, thank you. That was it. President Evil, isn't that a good title for it? We should write something right now called President Evil. Exterior, White House. Yeah, it writes itself, really, doesn't it? Yes, and Mark, you're right there. We have had that president already. I don't know who you mean. This is entirely politically free, because if it isn't, I'm in the UK and just, yeah. We could, I can't write about games. I don't play enough games. I actually could do Sudoku for an hour with you. You might be better than me at it. But if there are things other than games, other than that, tools that we use as, well, I was going to say, still as writers. I mean, for example, how about this? Just before we get into the proper stuff here, I'm obviously talking to you through YouTube. I obviously, it's working, so I know how to do it. I could tell you how to do that. You might well know more. You could tell me. That'd be good. I do a lot of video editing now, a lot of audio editing, and to me, that's writing. I mean, it isn't, but still, it's the same communication muscles, the same thinkers. You know, when you're writing something, you're thinking about, well, a good start. And I don't care whether you do a poem or a novel, you're thinking of the pacing and the rhythm through it and things. That's the same kind of thing I think about for audio and video editing. Plus, I just love it and I want to talk to you about this. But let's go back to the start. What we're here for today is WWDC. If you have followed any of the news about Apple's new announcements, then I think you know for certain that there's this thing called Apple Intelligence. I'm actually getting used to that term. I remember when PowerBooks went away, and I loved the name PowerBooks, and they became known as MacBooks, and that felt like quite an ugly portmanteau word. And now you don't think about it much at all. Teresa, there you go. Lovely to see you here too. Teresa, you missed really, I was very clever and eloquent for several minutes there. Portmanteau words, MacBook, PowerBook, all of this. Apple Intelligence is this new term that we've kind of got to get used to. And maybe because I've typed it 17 times today, it's becoming normal. I don't know. I'm always clever. Okay. I've got to live up to that now, haven't I? Thank you, though. Apple Intelligence is coming. Apple Intelligence has been announced, but actually it isn't here yet. So there's not a great deal that we know for certain. We only know what Apple has enthused about at us. And I'm a little bit surprised at that in a way, because normally at this stage, at least most of what is going to come has been released to developers in beta form. Now, I'm going to say this, and you're going to look at me, but this is really serious. Do not ever, ever install any beta test software on your devices. Not ever. Yeah, all right, okay. This is my iPhone, and it does have iOS 18 on it. You know, just a whole page with just row of, I don't know why I like that. I have an excuse. Okay. I'll tell you the excuse after I've told you the reason why you shouldn't do that. Let's do the whole, what's the phrase? Do as I say, not as I do thing. The reason I know this is ridiculous. I mean, that's macOS Sequoia behind me. That's the iPhone there, but this iPad is still on iOS 17. MacBook over there is staying firmly on macOS Sonoma, because this is test software. It's very good of Apple to let us have a look at software before it, breaks everything. But there is a chance it will break. And the trouble is, if you install some test software and it goes wrong, it could go so wrong that you lose the use of your device. I mean, I don't think permanently. There was one year, I think it took me several days to get it back working, but I did get it back working. You hear stories of things, it's called being bricks. Your iPhone becomes worthless. It's nothing more than a brick in a wall kind of thing. You don't want that for a few days if it's your only iPhone, if it's your only Mac, if your work depends on this. Mark said, my excuse, you're trying to guess my excuse. Mark is saying that my excuse is because I write for Apple Insider, and I've therefore sacrificed myself just to help you and get a screensaver going. Do you like this new screensaver, by the way? These icons are Susan Cares that she drew for the original Mac in 1983-4. Came out in 84, so you would have been doing it in the year before. And there's now a screensaver and a wallpaper, all about it. Love that stuff. I have fallen on my sword and installed all of this for the readers of Apple Insider, for you, not for me. Let me just underline this thing. If the beta tests go wrong, they can go wrong so badly. It is never, ever worth the risk. Now, yes, okay, I've risked it, but actually, no, yes, I did put this on because of Apple Insider. I was explicitly commissioned to write about the Mac, so macOS Sequoia. One of the features about the macOS Sequoia, yeah, that is the right word, isn't it? Yes, I got my Sonomas. I only just got over calling it macOS Carcinoma, and now I've got to remember Sequoia. Sequoia was actually also the name of a computer that I used to work on in the 1980s. So I think the first job I had I was briefly no, I wasn't a programmer with them. I was writing computer manuals, and we were using computers called Sequoias. First time I'd ever heard of that tree. And now every day I flash back to those times. macOS Sequoia. Okay, one of the big features of it is a really nice one where I showed you my iPhone. So there's my iPhone. Let's say I can't be bothered to reach all the way over there for my iPhone. With macOS Sequoia, I can have this screen. I can have all of it. Hang on, let me unlock it with my face. I can have every app, all of this stuff appear on that Mac screen, and I can control it there while the phone stays locked, tucked away in the corner. Big feature of the Mac, probably the biggest feature of the Mac. So I had to test it, and that's why I risked my iPhone on this. That was the only reason. And it was a little bit foolish, to be fair, because that feature isn't there yet at all. There is other stuff. Ask me about other stuff, because some of it's really nice. But none of the artificial intelligence stuff, the Apple intelligence stuff that Apple kept banging on about, none of that is in the new iOS, the new Mac OS, none of it yet. Chris Perry, human beings are still needed for Apple intelligence to work. Yes, thank God. I'll tell you what, since you raised that point, let's go into this bit. The thing that, for good and bad reasons, kind of caught my eye during all of the discussions about what Apple intelligence does. I mean, there's loads of things to do with graphics and images and finding things and using the internet. It all seems very nice and good. But there was also this thing that Apple refers to as writing tools. Give me a little pause there. On the good side, writing tools, it's a system-wide thing. So whatever app you're using, whatever you can write into, you can select it and say, oi, iPhone, oi, Mac, please proofread this. And it will do like a Grammarly sort of check. I would be a bit more worried if I was running the Grammarly company, although I think they'll cope. It will do a basic proofreading check. So really, isn't that just like a bionic spelling checker? Microsoft Word's long had a grammar checker, but it's Word. So, I remember actually the first time I used it, Word gave me unquestionably wrong grammatical advice about a sentence. And that's it. I never went back. That's a bit of an overreaction on my part. I will try it when it becomes writing tools as part of the Mac and the iPhone, the iOS and iPad rather. But beyond that, there was also this that I was slightly less keen on. And I'd like to know what you think about this, because you're a writer as well. There is this idea that you could draft an email to somebody, look at it and think, it needs to be more professional. So you would select it, press a button, and Siri would rewrite that whole section you've selected in a more formal tone, or go the other way, have it more friendly. I'm wondering if there's an option to turn it into emoji, because I'd really use that a lot. Yeah. I'm sure I'll try it out. I'm never going to use it though, because if I'm emailing someone, if I'm emailing you and it takes me an hour to craft the email to say what I want, that's an hour well spent. I think I am more than happy with that. I have spent days on certain emails where I had to be just absolutely so. So it's obviously tempting to think that you could just push a button and it would all be done, but it's all going to be done the same way. And what we know as writers is that writing is not just the words you use on the page or the screen. It's the words you don't use. It's the subtext. It's the message. It's what you make the reader think. That's what we bring that I don't believe artificial Apple intelligence can bring. But on the other hand, even in the last couple of days, I've had, let's be kind, bizarre emails from people who clearly aren't writers, okay? They have the same tools we do, but they don't practice in the same way do. Their talents lie elsewhere, shall we say, and they are struggling to ask me something, or a couple of cases to tell me something, I think, but I couldn't tell. And there was one fella, I do not know what you meant. And he got so angry at me. I think he got so angry at me. There was certainly more capital exclamation marks in his reply to my reply. But maybe if he just pushed a button in macOS Sequoia, iOS 18, it would have gone before he even hit send. I'm not going to criticize anybody for using a tool that helps them do something they can't do. I just think as writers, we can do this, so we're probably not going to use it. I think, thank you, Teresa. I was looking for a euphemism there. I didn't think I found it. I use a spell checking thing. Do I? Yes, I get criticized a lot, actually, that my writing style, my grammar, is all very conversational. I identify as a script writer, and it tends to be that everything I write is dialogue, whether or not it's meant to be. I promise you, I can go more formal. I used to have to adopt certain styles for certain magazines and places, but if I went through with Grammarly and my things, I'm sure it would trip up things that it thinks are correct and that it would be right about, and that so would Apple's writing tools, but also that I don't care about. There are things in our voice, our tone, that I think we can smooth out sometimes. The more exclamation marks usually mean the less intellectual. Oh, you can't disagree. That's harsh but fair, actually. Yes, I'm trying to think. Exclamation marks are also called shrieks sometimes. It's more of a printing term than anything, but it always like shriek, shriek, shriek to me when I see it. It would be great if we could organize a document full of notes in pages into a draft. There is going to be something else called summarizing. Let me come back to that. Don't let me go without talking about that, because I want to finish off the thing that's being marketed. That's the term, as writing tools, because there are really the three aspects to it. One is the proofreading that I mentioned. One is the making it more friendly or less formal. That's the same thing, but maybe I do need this kind of stuff. But then there's also this, and this is the one that I had more trouble with. Craig Federighi, Apple's head of software, announced that you can also get Siri to write you a story. Say your kid wants a bedtime story about something, and well, here it is. And then it will illustrate it as well. And I'm looking at that. Yeah. Quick side story. There's a writer called William Goldman. It's best known for thrillers, Marathon Man, but he also did All the President's Men, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is probably his best known thing. He was going away on work somewhere, and I think he had two daughters, very, very young. I don't know the age, but he asked them, "What would you like me to write you a story about?" And one of them said, princesses. And the other one said, brides. Okay, he went off and he wrote The Princess Bride, which just is an amazing book. And some people say amazing film. Funny thing is, if you see the film first and then read the book, you think the film is the fantastic one. And if you read the book first, as I did, you think the film's fine, but the book is a fantastic one. I don't see Craig Federighi's button creating that kind of thing, but it will be used, and we'll see how effective it is. So, sorry, those are the three. There's the proofreading, the friendlier professional level one, and they try to put us out of business one. But then there was that thing I said, don't let me go without this thing about that question about organizing things. I don't know that this is organizerable, but Apple kept repeating that Apple Intelligence would summarize things. It would do it within your writing when you said, "Hello, please summarize this." Off it would go. It would also do this. I think this is quite nice. Apple Intelligence and iOS 18 and the iPhone will be able to record telephone calls. I mean, both sides will be warned, as they must be, that it's being recorded, but it will record the audio and transcribe it. And as well as transcribing the conversation, also generate a summary for you. So I could see you selecting all the text in Pages in different sections and saying summarize it, but then you're still left organizing it, the thread through. I quite like the login organizing it though. I'm not sure about it. The younger generation use exclamation mark a lot, a whole lot. Do they? I work with a bunch of young writers. I love doing this. There's a company in the Midlands called, here in the UK, called Writing West Midlands. And for 10 years now, I have got to work with, I'm rubbish with ages because I don't care. They're just writers. There's young writers and there's teenage writers. And it's a self-selecting group. They have chosen to come to this thing. So, they're really into it. And they are so good at it. I'm trying to think if they use exclamation marks. Well, maybe one of them did. But she was so good with them. Quick story, quick side story, because we've just finished the session and she's not watching this. I'll never see her again. It's a terrible shame. You work with people for a year and then you never know what happens with them. But there's this one young writer. Can't believe I'm telling you this. At least let me tell you quickly. You run the writing workshop, you plan it for ages, you come out, you've got this idea, you say, right, let's do this, this, and this. And you say to her what you want. And she never once did it. And I don't mean through some sort of rudeness, is that the word? There's an awkwardness, anything like that. It was always, she just thought of something slightly different and she would go off and do that. And it was great every time. When I was planning things out, I'd think, what will she do with this bit? Love that stuff. Don't really see AI being like that, but do see human writers. Right, love it. Harsh but fair will be my epitaph. Not for a very long time. Okay, let's leave it at that. Love your channel. Were you ever a Windows user? Do you mind if I answer things like this? I mean, I do want to talk about WWDC. So how about we'll keep coming back to it as I remember things, but let me answer that one. Is yes, I was in a previous life. I was a Windows user. I, I was young and I tried it out, and it just didn't stick. I used to write for a Windows magazine, PC Direct it was called, and a couple of times for PC Magazine here in the UK, and they used PCs. I used PCs. Uh, the turning point came when I wrote a feature on how to build a PC. Do you ever have this? You have people saying they built their own PC, and it's like, don't believe a word of it. All they did is they took 5 different components from different companies and they wedged them together. So the motherboard, graphics card, they bought a keyboard. They didn't make the keyboard or anything like that. I did all of this. I worked through it. I created my PC, and it was so dull for it. I thought, is this all a computer is? Put them all together. And I don't know if you're too young to know this. Can I try this and just have you laugh politely? The original IBM PC back in the day, I can't remember the numbers, but it used to run at a certain speed. I think it was called slow. And then they came out with one that was fast. It wasn't really, but it was faster. And people panicked. They actually worried, will my software run at this dizzying speed for it? Yeah, of course it will. To get people to buy the machines anyway, PC manufacturers put a button in. They called it a turbo button. They had a little display usually, and it would have whatever the slower speed was, the 2-digit number, 4 something, 41. I'm making it up now. You push the turbo button and it would go to 82, whatever the other number was. Okay, so the idea was you could press this, and if your software survived, great. And if it didn't, don't worry about it. Push the button and you're back to normal. The very last job before putting the case on this PC I built was wire in that button. And I found that there was a wire coming from the button to that display that had the number on it. And that was it. The button controlled the display of the little icon. And that it's very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy bit. Don't press this button again stuff. I'm thinking this is all nonsense. Did I just swear and that bleeped at me? Let me kill the sound on that actually, just in case. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of the start there, plus all the Microsoft Word things. I could go down a rabbit hole with that. Please pull me back. When asked what I was looking forward to most when I retired, you retired? Why did you retire? I told everyone it was I would never have to use Windows again. Okay. Oh, Thomas, good evening. Hello, good evening from Germany. Love it. I'm in the UK. Fantastic, isn't it, that we can just talk around the world? I don't want to diss Windows all the time. Lots of people love Windows. I've spent today working on Apple Insider, and I think, no, it's not true. I'm not the only person there that solely has Macs and devices, but I'm one of the few. Most of them, mostly gamers, also have PCs and things, and they like them. Dot, you use I'm personal/friendly communication, but not in business. Yeah, good point. The thing is, you know your audience, don't you? That's something we inherently know. And we have this thing that we're supposed to write what we like, I suppose. But I need to focus on the audience for it. I mean, so much so that even if it's something I know is never going to get made, I'm just writing it to get it out of me. I can't not think of the end user, the end reader, the end viewer or listener and things. Because I think if I don't focus that way, I can't let myself off the hook. Do you find this? You'll write a bit, think, yeah, it's not, but yeah, I'll worry about it later, and then you don't. When you imagine there's someone waiting at the end, I focus and it helps me for it. But I do adjust business and, well, less and less. Actually, I'm sorry. Look, can I give you another quick story? Really, this was supposed to be straight, serious information here, but what are you doing to me? I mentioned earlier that I used to adapt to different things. I find less and less I do that now. And I found my own voice a few years ago for it. That's another story. I found I used to enjoy adapting to a house style. I still have to do it. Apple and cider that's been mentioned that I write for, they like things done a certain way. So I write them a certain way. But there can be more. I used to work on BBC News Online and radiotimes.com. And, and quite a long time ago now, they had a Big Brother column on Radio Times. Um, I never happened to watch Big Brother. Nothing against it, nothing for it, just wasn't something I watched until one day the person who wrote the Radio Times daily blog about Big Brother back then was off ill. I was the only person spare. I had to write one. I loved watching the show, learning something about it, trying to find something of interest to people who were fans who did watch it and turn it around. I think I had 2 hours and the show was 90 minutes or something. So the pressure was on as well. And I loved that. And it worked. I never got to do it again, which usually means actually that's a bad thing, isn't it? But for a week afterwards, friends around the BBC would say to me, I didn't know you liked Big Brother that much. And so that's good. That kind of adapting to style, I really, really like. Thanks for indulging me, Andy. Yes, who wouldn't? It's you. Got to. Okay. Greetings from Wales. Oh, fantastic. Why do I get so excited about different countries and things? It's because, is this you as well as me? I spend most of my day sitting here. Actually, it used to be slightly over there. My office is in a terrible state at the moment with things all over the place. I'm in a little corner now, but I'm in the corner and I'm writing all day and I'm sending text off to all sorts of places. But then we reach out through this and we're everywhere. And I just can't get enough of it. Greetings from SA, South Africa. Whoa, so good. Sadly, family obligations need attending to. You're putting family before, of course you are. Okay. Hoping this is the first of many. That is the plan. I've been waiting for an opportunity, a good reason to talk to you, and I thought WWDC would be it, but I'm kind of enjoying this. So let's do this as a regular thing. Will I ever get back to the point that WWDC? If it's going to cause excitement from Cork. My family is from the County Mayo area, so basically nowhere near you, but still. Ireland, yes, excellent. And Bournemouth, yes, in the UK. I'm in Birmingham in the UK for it. So we're all over. I think the times is kind of suits UK and nearby, but South Africa, what time zone is that? I think whatever time zone it is, it's time we got onto the point again. So we've dissed Windows terribly, and it was rotten, and I blame you for that. Entirely innocent. There you go. Do ask me if there's anything you want to know about macOS Sequoia and iOS 18. I mean, since I've sacrificed my devices just for you, let's make some worth out of that. But otherwise, WWDC and the writing tools. I think that's going to ultimately end up being what we remember of this year's announcements. I think, though, we're also, I know this is a contradiction, but I think we're also going to forget about them. It's going to become, I've said this before about AI on 58 Keys. They're just going to be more tools that we use and we don't think about. Like, I don't think of the online dictionaries that I use, for example. It's just, I need to know a word. What does it mean? How do I spell it? I go look it up and things like that. Right now, we're in the kind of still the buzzy phase of it all, which could be quite exciting, also quite worrying. There's lots going on in the industry around writing and to do with artificial intelligence. I'm deputy chair of the Writers Guild, so although I'm not involved in any negotiations myself, I do hear about them, and I worry about them a little bit, but still, tools we can use. How about this though? I said to you that this iPad is staying on iOS 17. It might not though. Because earlier today, I found out one of the things that has turned up. Apple said this thing that there's going to be an improvement on handwriting, and I desperately need that. Desperately need that. Character limit of writing tools. Oh, that is clever. Good question. Can we select the whole of the Silmarillion and select summarize? I could summarize that quite quickly. I'm not a fantasy fan. That's why, but I am someone who remembers stories about fantasy. Can you bear another story? Very quick. True story. Nothing to do with me. And it's not the Silmarillion, but you put this in my mind. It's actually Lord of the Rings. For some reason, you put that in my mind. I've never read it. I have tried. I watched the first film. Is it 12 years ago now since the first film? I am convinced, Peter Jackson film, rather, not all of them. I'm convinced that Sean Bean is still dying in the cinema somewhere for it. Perplexity. Oh, thank you, Ian. I'm glad you like it. I'm really enjoying it too. The story, though, you're getting me to tell stories on stories. There's a woman called Helene Hanff, a writer called Helene Hanff. Helen with an E, and Hanff, Hanff. She's most famous for writing 84 Charing Cross Road. So, true story, book of letters about a bookshop in England and her living in New York. It's deeply moving, profoundly well written, gorgeous book. Became a great film as well. But early on in her career, she was a secretary somewhere, and also managed to get to become a reader for, pretty sure it's Warner Brothers. It was those Universal, Warner Brothers, one of those. And she comes home one Friday night, hard week, glad to get home, and there on the doormat is the Lord of the Rings, all of it, in manuscript form. So just reams of paper. She gets inside, thinks, well, I'll earn some money from this. It's good. Need cash. New York, expensive. Opens the first page. And what's the first line? Something like, Bilbo Baggins celebrated his 11th. Shut the first page. She says she phoned all her friends and just enraged at them, cried at them and all this stuff, and then sat down to read it. On Monday morning, she filed a report basically recommending against it. But this is the thing. She also billed the company an extra $50 for what she said on the invoice was mental cruelty. And they just paid it for it. Things you remember about this. But now, Perplexity. If you don't happen to know what this is, Perplexity.ai. It has replaced Google for me. It's not perfect, but then Google's hardly perfect too. I have come to find I go to perplexity.ai, I ask it questions. If in Google I would have said, I'd have just searched for iOS 18. In perplexity.ai, I will say, tell me about iOS 18, and it goes off and it finds me various sources about it. Actually, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I wasn't going to blame Perplexity for this, but I am now. You know that thing I said, Apple's Craig Federighi, said that AI can write you a story. Well, as it happens, a few weeks ago, there was 58 keys about word counts. I'd found a massive difference. I thought, well, I've got to test this. And I wanted one block of text change to try in every one of the dozens of word processors I use. So I asked perplexity.ai, give me 5,000 words of nonsense text, filler text, lorem ipsum kind of text. And it did. Only the text it gave me was 1,300 words long. With Perplexity and all these AI things, you can go, that's not what I asked for. And Perplexity goes, oh, I'm so sorry. It actually says it. You're perfectly right. How did I get that wrong? Here is 5,000 words. It was 1,700 words. Okay, no, this is terrible. As AI, I should be able to do this, yes. And yeah, here, look, there you go. There's 5,000 words. No, can't remember the figures for that one, but it was wrong as well. Okay, gave up on that. But actually, earlier today, I had reason to find filler text as well. So I went back to Perplexity AI. I thought, right. It kept saying as well, sorry, that it's learning from this and it would look into it. Well, it's a few weeks now. Has it learned? Kinda. It says, I can't give you 5,000 words of nonsense text because that's irresponsible of AI. So I actually went in and told it, I know, I mean, as in printers, filler text, lorem ipsum stuff. I explicitly said those words, and then it gave me 5,000 words, 397 of them anyway, and things. If AI can't do that, I think maybe our jobs are for real text, real stories. They might be a bit safe, which is awful of me, isn't it? I've just bashed Perplexity AI. I mean, Ian thanks me for recommending it. And I go, yes, great. But I just, as well as things like that, I think we need to be aware of the limits, and that was like a forcible reminder for me. But today, I did use Google for one thing because Perplexity just didn't seem to give me enough of an answer. But that was the only thing. Otherwise, every single thing I needed to look up, every reference I needed to find, I at least started with Perplexity and then checked something out. There's a famous Apple video called the Knowledge Navigator. It's said to have been created by John Sculley in the 1980s. He was CEO of Apple at the time. And the truth is, he hired people and they did it. And he basically proclaimed himself to be this great visionary. Okay, there's a reason to watch it now. There's a reason to think Apple Intelligence means Apple has caught up with its own vision of the future. Not quite, but it's getting there. So I asked Perplexity AI about it, and it pointed me to the people who actually created it. None of the sources I have in various books here mentioned them. So Perplexity AI is a really, really good AI system. It replaced Google for me, but still I'm aware we need to look further. We need to question the results we get from somewhere. So I went off and verified it, and I had some doubts about that one, but it was real, and we got there. So is this a writer thing? I'm recommending, and I'm not recommending something at the same time. We can do that, can't we? We can kind of hold conflicting thoughts in my head. I was thinking that's a writer thing. Maybe it's just me, and you're looking at me now. Teresa, you said an ad pop up. I didn't think that would happen in a live session. Oh, now I wondered about this. Forgive me, this isn't the first ever live one I did, but it's the first live one that worked. I did lots of experiments last year on the channel. Suddenly you see videos of me go and things like that. But this one, when I was setting it up, it said, right, you're going to get ads. What was the phrase? Do you want them to be conservative or to be aggressive? And I went off thinking, conservative as in Tory government? And I don't know what I did, but apparently it included an ad there. I'll look into that. Teresa, let me know, was it incredibly intrusive? Oh, did it play an ad over that brilliant joke that I told and you missed for it? Okay, yeah. Good thing Perplexity isn't responsible for financial help then if you can't count words. Yes. Oh, but actually, I mean, I just mentioned governments and things. It is shocking to me how poor it seems all governments are with technology, because here in the UK is the famous example that the British government lost records to do with COVID deaths because they were recording them in Excel, but they were recording them in columns instead of rows, and didn't realize there's quite comparatively short limit. Not knowing how to use Excel, well, I mean, you can't blame somebody for not knowing something, but using it for something like this, you would expect them to figure it out and to use it, but it wasn't even noticed for ages and things. So maybe Perplexity would be better than that. ChatGPT has really surprised Thomas. You're feeding it with one of my last novels, and I summarized the appearance of a special character, and it did very well. Oh, can you tell me more about that? There's a thing in Final Draft, the screenwriting software, where you can look at it and tell it, just show me how many times William speaks, or how many times I use exterior swimming pool day, or something like that. And that's kind of useful for part of the rhythm and the pace for that. I'm also thinking actually that sort of thing's useful for production, isn't it? Because location manager could look to see, like, half the film is set in a swimming pool and the other half's in the closet or something. We're going to need a smaller studio. We're going to need a larger swimming pool or something like that. Teresa, not intrusive, but you weren't expecting it. I didn't know when I'd come back. I'm really curious to know what you missed, and I don't know, did you miss anything? Did it me at all like that? I'll look into this. I'm not keen on the idea of ads for this. Let's figure it out for it. Thank you for letting me know it happened for it. We've gone mildly. Well, I just compressed wildly and mildly into mildly. That is actually the word. Way off the topic of WWDC. How about this? Since the announcements have been made, the one that not affect us most, but maybe concern us, not concern us in worry, but concern us, involve us, are the writing tools things. But there are these other things, these other nice things, and some of them are here and we can play with them now. You just had to wait 5 seconds and skip the ads. Okay, well, thank you for waiting and skipping. I appreciate that. I wonder what it was an ad for. What ad goes up against this? Probably biscuits and chocolate. Can I see the ads? Could be WWDC. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it? All the nice things it's bringing us, it hasn't brought yet. Well, you've seen the screensaver, the Susan Kerr-based screensaver. I love her work. I used to have this like a white T-shirt with just, it's called the command symbol, like the 4-leaf squared off clover. I used to have a little icon of that, but it was very Star Trek-y. I would kind of go and start talking, Right. We have nice screensavers. Is that really what I'm going to say is good about all of this stuff? You wait for all these announcements every year, and yay, there's a screensaver. There's also, let's go with this end, there's a passwords app. I was half surprised, half not. For a very long time, I've been using an app called 1Password. In fact, I can actually clearly remember where we are now. We're in my office, but downstairs and that way we have a kind of garden room where my wife was working one day, and she told me about this thing called 1Password many, many years ago now. And I can remember her telling me this, and I'm thinking, okay, who would use that? From that day, to this and beyond, 1Password is on the front of my. Have I just moved it today in the move around of everything else? No, there it is. 1Password right there. And so are messages that I'm trying to ignore. Didn't realize that. 1Password, it means it's a password manager. And every time I save a password somewhere, it goes in there. I never have to remember it. I never even have to think of it, actually. 1Password comes up with one of those crazy, I don't know, exclamation mark. It's obviously a very young password manager, and then symbols and all this stuff. And now Apple has its own version. I'm not surprised because Apple has been kind of building this way for a long time. Apple actually said in the keynote presentation they've been working on this for 25 years, and it wasn't an exaggeration. Things like Safari, the browser, have long been saving passwords for you. And actually, for the last few years now, I found it slightly irritating that you go to enter a password and up Safari would pop up with, do you want me to enter the password? And so would 1Password. And just occasionally you have to kind of find your way around them to get to the right bit. And so I knew Safari was doing all this. I don't know how often I choose to save in Safari, but apparently 700 times, because I opened the password app and it had 706 passwords of mine already in there. It also, though, had 41 router passwords. Looking through the list there, Wi-Fi networks from the last time I was in America, Wi-Fi from when we used to have Sky TV routers before they bust and all this stuff. It remembered all of these things that I don't ever remember telling it to remember, but passwords is full of these things now, and I might switch to it from 1Password. Not sure. We'll see. Oh, hello, Stuart's here. Hello, good evening, Stuart. Are you just in from work? For you should be eating and recovering and then writing. You shouldn't be listening to me. What am I saying? You should be listening to me instead of work and family responsibilities and all that. Okay. ASPCA says, oh, sorry, is that what the ad you saw was? I have no clue what ASPCA is. Association of something pretty clear. Yeah, okay. Stuart, you come in at the most useful part of this. I'm clearly being right on it. Let me finish up some things about the password app, because I think animal cruelty. Oh, good grief. Yeah, oh, right. I don't fully see the relevance with what we're talking about. Is anything relevant to this mess of stuff? The password app. Focus, focus. The password app. There's just one little oddity to tell you about. I said I use 1Password, and now there's a password app. On the iPhone, there's nothing you can do to get everything out of 1Password and into passwords if you even want to, but on the Mac, you can. The Mac will import Uh, if you export your passwords from 1Password or LastPass or Dashlane or that, passwords can import them. Why it's only on the Mac, I don't know, but it's probably just the fact that we're at the start of a few months of testing and these features will come in. American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Monterey, California. That's been used as a macOS name, hasn't it? I don't think that's the only reason it's famous. I'm trying to remember, have I been to Monterey? I have a very good impression of it being a really nice part of California. Is it a really nice part of California? Why did that just flash at me? What is it saying? The crazy ones behind me. If you've just joined us, you just joined us. This is a screensaver in macOS Sequoia. I have updated, don't tell anybody. And this is a screensaver that uses Susan Care's icons from the 1980s and displays them. A screensaver and a wallpaper. Love it for it. Anyway, Monterey, do let me know. Wait, that wasn't you I passed on the street there in Monterey, was it? Yeah, getting sillier and sillier now. We've covered passwords. Let me cover something else I like. I know this is going to sound a silly thing, but I did show it to you earlier. If I go into this, I can't work out why I like this. Let me put the iPad down. Let's see. You can arrange your icons instead of the usual grid. You can have them in a column. You can have them dotted all over the place. It's still going to be neat. Apple is never going to let you make a mess. There were some people who were expecting you to be able to overlap icons, and no, never going to happen. If you try to move them around and let go, it kind of falls into the nearest slot, but you can do all of this. I see no purpose to it at all, except I'm trying to adjust it here. Except actually, I don't, you can see that I, for some reason, enjoyed just having a column there. And you see the little gap. Just before we started talking, I wrote a feature for Apple Insider about how to hide apps. And I promise you, the editor asked me, is the hiding app feature working yet? Because so much isn't. And I tried it and I had to tell him it's working so well, I can't find the app that I just hid. So decided maybe an article on how to do it. I got it back in the end, but not in the right place there. Teresa Rebel, you're stuck on 706 passwords. Am I greedy, do you think? Little bit. Lots of clients I used to work for, actually, I would get a set of their passwords for all of their things. And so at one point, if I had, when I was at the BBC, I'd be working for Radio Times, BBC News, BBC CFAX, somewhere else. Can't remember whether somewhere else is. And for each department, there'd be all these passwords and I'd have all of them. I mean, they're years and years out of date now. I should probably go through them a little bit. One more quick story, just because I mentioned all of those. I was at Television Centre once working with. I loved BBC Television Centre in London, and I can still see there's a bit where I came around the corner, and there was my editor from CFAX, talking with my editor from BBC News, talking with my editor from Radio Times, and the three of them had that moment discovered that I worked for each of them. They knew I was freelance, knew I was all over the place, but they had just met. To this day, I can see the face of them as they turned around and saw me. To this day, I'm wondering whether they were happy about it or not. And how did they come onto my name? What brought me up? Anyway, Mark Horton, you find your favorite feature announced from the keynote was iPhone mirroring in Sequoia. Absolutely. I'm with you there. That is the entire reason I have iOS 18 on my phone. It's genuine. It's a gamble. Putting any beta on any software, on any hardware, is a risk, and I shouldn't do it. I did it here on this Mac because I was required to write about it, but also because I have two Macs. If this one goes down, it is a problem, but it's not the end of everything. I have a MacBook Pro over to the side here, and actually I'm working a lot on that anyway. Last year, I kept the MacBook on the one before macOS Sonoma for a long time. 6 or 7 months into Sonoma before I finally got around to updating it. And the day I did, I hit a problem on an app. So that's another thing. I mentioned that you can brick, as it's called, your hardware, but also apps are just not going to automatically work with the new version. You'd think after a few months they would, but if it's something crucial, if you anything you rely on, don't risk it with a beta. But I so wanted to know about iPhone mirroring, and I assumed I was going to have to write about it. I assumed that it was there, that as soon as I'd done the Mac, I did update the iPhone and then found out that feature just isn't switched on yet. But absolutely, I'm looking forward to trying that out. Although, Mark, tell me this, what will you use it for? Yeah, it's one of these things that I think is really clever. I've got to try it. Will I use it? A couple of years ago, no, we got what was called universal control, where sitting here at this Mac, I mentioned I have a MacBook Pro over there. My arms are getting all over the place. Using that keyboard and mouse, I can kind of reach over and control that. Or I could have this iPad over in the corner and control that. And at first, that looked like a toy, but it's proved incredibly useful for it. There was outrage from the new Windows feature Recall. Apple introduced Apple Intelligence. AI analyzes personal data. How do you compare the two features? P.S. I trust Apple. Yeah, so do I. Actually, I think Apple does some, I would say some bad things with its suppliers, and I think Apple needs to allow unions in its Apple stores. That's another thing. But overall, with our data, particularly, I trust them. I looked at that Windows thing. I'm sorry, you said it's called Replay? Yeah, Recall. Sorry. It looked really familiar to me, and I haven't been able to find this out, but I know 10 years ago, possibly more, there was the same feature. It wasn't done by Apple, but it was done on Macs, where a third-party app would take a shot every now and again, and it was actually shockingly useful to be able to basically wind back your day and see just how long you spent on YouTube and things like that. It was deeply useful, but also, why did I ever install it? Because it was a third-party company. I'm sure I'd heard of them, but I don't remember who they are now. They could be doing anything with this data and seeing my passwords and all this stuff. So no, I killed it. I see the utility of it. I'm surprised that it came up in Windows. I don't see Apple doing the same thing for us here. And something is bleeping at me. I was leaning on a button and calling up Siri by accident. I'll put that down. Be quiet. Sorry, Siri. Also, if I just said Siri aloud and it's near any of your gear, I'm sorry if it activated. Why? Right now, okay, so I have a MacBook Pro, which is what I'm talking to you through. I have an iPad here. You've seen the iPhone. There's the Mac. Before my office fell apart, I had to rip it apart to get into things. I also had two HomePods for it. And down in our living room, we have a HomePod Mini. If I ask, let's call her Iris. If I ask Iris for something, the number of times the HomePod Mini in the living room would respond instead of any of the devices around me, just unfathomable. I'd use mirroring. Thanks, Mark, because when you're writing, your phone can be very distracting. Be easier for me than turning it off when I can just open it remotely, see if anything of note is there, and be done. That's clever. I like that. I have a friend who I think she pays $10 a month, so that between, I think it's the hour, something like between the hours of 9 and 5, her PC, I think it is, her PC will not connect to the internet. It's like everything is blocked, and she does it so that she can focus. But she also told me that she just turns to her phone and uses that instead. So yeah, phones are terrible and distracting and great. I'm wondering, will I use it for the same thing? Thing is, I get all my notifications on all of my devices. Even phone calls come through to all of them. So I think I'm going to end up using focus modes more, and that would switch off the phone as well. Okay, you got me thinking about that now. Can't wait to try this stuff out. Let me say, the developer beta is out now. It is meant to be only for people who are actually making apps for iPhone and iPad and Mac and Vision Pro and the watch, I suppose, and all these things. The developer beta is out. The public beta is going to be sometime in July, and I think around that time is when we're going to at least start to see some of these Apple Intelligence features. Did you hear me hesitate there? For sometimes I'm used to the words Apple Intelligence, sometimes I'm really not. I think that's when we'll actually get to use them, and we'll be able to try out the writing tools thing. See what they're like for it. Quite looking forward to that. But I'm more looking forward to iPhone mirroring. So we talked about writing tools, talked about passwords, the announcements. There are things in Safari that I quite like, though they don't seem to be there yet. Well, surprisingly hard to tell. There are certain websites I like reading. There's some Doctor Who websites. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I used to write for Doctor Who and Big Finish and things. And when you are a Doctor Who fan, you get really, really into it. And there's a website. I'm not going to hide the name from you. I've just blanked on what it is. Sorry. But it is, on the good side, it is just replete with detail and information. But on the bad side, it's just all splashed adverts everywhere in your face. So every time I go into it, I use Safari's reader mode. And in fact, I've told Safari, whenever I go to this site, switch on reader. Reader just shows me almost complete plain text, few images, things. And what Safari has now added, or is in the process of adding, is that it will summarize that page as well. Less keen on the summary bit. I mean, might be handy. Is this what I need? Yes, then I'll read on. But as well as the summary, it's also going to do like a contents page. And one of the problems with the reader was you go to a site, you're blinded by the ads, you switch on this thing, but it might only show you most of the site. There could be other pages that you can't even see, you're not seeing. So you'd be in and out. I'm hoping the contents page will solve all of that. What do I think about Apple Vision Pro, which is coming to Germany and the UK, and how authors can make good use of it? I'm in a bit of a dilemma here, actually, about it. It's coming to the UK in a few weeks' time. It's very, very expensive. I would, at the moment, personally, I would rather put my money to a new iPad. I mean, really new, good iPad than Apple Vision Pro. But I've also got to try it out. I know I have a friend called Wes Hilliard who I work with on the Apple Insider podcast. And every time we do the Apple Insider podcast, he is wearing his Apple Vision Pro as he talks to me. He writes most of the day using it. So he's very keen on how it's helped his workflow for it. And actually, because of him, I think I really want to try out the whole thing for myself. But you do get a keyboard, an on-screen keyboard. And apparently at the moment, that is just awful. But I'm kind of not surprised. Like it floats in front of you and you can type like that. You know, can't imagine you can do full finger typing. I can't conceive of being able to 80,000 words of a novel like that. But apparently, according to the announcements, WWDC and some of the details around it, that keyboard is going to be improved. So maybe. But as it is, I mean, I have a Bluetooth keyboard here. The MacBook that I'm using for this is just slightly too far away, so I'm using this that I'm reviewing. You can use one of these with Vision Pro. So you can kind of add to it real devices. You've got to try it out, really. And the thing is, I don't want to go into an Apple store and get them to demonstrate it and spend, apparently it's half an hour or something. They demonstrate it for you and then go at the end, yeah, no thanks. Not going to spend £3,500 on that, but I do want to try it. I think it's going to come to the stage where it will become more useful. I think we'll come to like it more, but for the moment, I mean, literally for the moment, right now, I am thinking this second, I'm probably not going to do it. Ask me just after 8 o'clock when we finish, and I might have a different opinion. What do you think? Should I try the Apple Vision Pro? Can I blame it on you if I do? And much more interestingly, if you are in a territory that has it or is going to get it, do you use it and do you like it? I can't really think of a 58 keys topic we could do with Apple Vision Pro, but maybe if I could, then I'd do one and get one. And then I could blame you for everything. Couldn't I? I kind of like that. Is that what we do? We spread the blame around? Yeah, a little bit. Oh, actually, I am getting a notification that there's going to be some ads in 49 seconds time. That makes me want to shut up quickly. What time is it? It's almost 8 o'clock. I've been gassing away at you for an hour. Try it and see. Lol. Okay. Oh, mirroring would also be useful for sites where you have two-factor authentication. Yes, but the digits on the mirror. Oh, yes. Okay. Can I tell you this? What if I just wait another 25 seconds for Anne and then slip in the details so you don't see me look silly? Oh, Teresa, it'd be deductible for me. I'm ask accountant. Good thing. All right, I'll tell you this. I will tell you this because it's you. Please don't tell anybody this. I have two-factor authentication set up on a particular project, right? One project, and for some reason, and who knows why, when I ask for it and it pops up the number, it only pops it up on this Mac in my office. So not my iPad, not my iPhone, not my MacBook. So there was one day I actually brought my Mac Mini to my mother's house so that I could plug it into a screen there and do it just to get one 6-digit number out of it. You're looking at me there, aren't you? Okay. Oh, look at that. It's 8 o'clock. We're talking for an hour. I think we should stop now. Go out on an embarrassing moment like that. Listen, thank you very, very much for being with me. I love that we get to talk through 58 keys. I mean, writers together, is there anything better? Paid writers together, maybe. Yeah, let's see. I think this should be a regular thing. I'm going to try for make a schedule for it, but it would help me enormously if you could come up with some ideas of things we could talk about. Like today was supposed to be WWDC, kind of went off the point a little bit, but I enjoyed doing that, and I'm blaming you for it definitely. Teresa, nice to see all the writers. Yes, Dot, great chance. Yay! it was real with lots of exclamation marks. All right, that's that. On that bombshell, let's end this. Thank you enormously for being with me, and let's see you again. Now, could you take care of yourself, and write more? That is important. And I'll see you soon.